Thank you, Carl. Thank you, staff. I now call the general committee meeting to order for February 1st, 2023. Welcome to this general committee meeting this evening. This meeting is being held in person electronically in accordance with the Municipal Act. The first item on the agenda is the consent agenda. For the first consent items, I will read out the title associated with the recommended motions printed on the agenda. Members of general committee may ask that an item be held to discuss the matter further. If an item is not held, the motion is deemed to be approved on consent. No further discussion of the item will take place at general committee, and the item will go forward to City Council for consideration on February 15th, 2023. The first item is CAO 003-23. The item is approved on consent. The second item is Bill 23, Municipal Housing Pledge. Someone hold that, please. Okay. Held by Councillor Kungle. Now that that's been held, I will ask that Councillor Kungle, if we can put the item on the floor.
Certainly, through you, Mayor Nettle, I'll put the item on the floor as presented.
Thank you so much. With regards to the municipal housing pledge, we obviously as a city have been asked to provide this to the provincial government. And I think that we need to take the opportunity to remind folks, and I know that this is, obviously not one of the highest rated council meetings or shows on television, but we always need to take the opportunity to remind folks that we do not build housing. In fact, we don't even build social housing. The county does that. Right. And so when we look at these targets, they are strictly in the form of permitting. And I certainly want to be on the record at this point on behalf of council, if you'll let me, outlining that we, as we're making this commitment, we're making a commitment to permit, not to build. And even some of the language within the pledge itself, while we've been, staff have worked very hard to make sure that it's in line with both what the province has requested as well as what we have the ability to do, is perhaps could be taken out of context in terms of the word construction. So I just want to be on the record on that to say that we don't do construction, we don't do building, we do permitting. If developers don't come and ask for permits, or builders don't come and ask for permits after the development has been put in place, we can't control that. So we are making a commitment today with regards to a number that we actually don't have control over. Our job is to make sure that we provide an environment where there is as little red tape as possible and as much opportunity to hit the targets as possible, but not to build or construct. I'll open it to the floor now, and if there's any questions, concerns, and if not, that's okay. We can move on with the actual vote. Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I would echo your comments and also point to one of the items there where it says identify potential measures where current lack of infrastructure capacity such as water and wastewater servicing may limit future development. And I think that's something that we also need to recognize, is that there are limits on our sewage plant and the water plant in terms of what kind of development, how much development we can support. And we are doing, we're working on expanding that plant, but we need money for that. And I think that we need to reinforce the fact that somewhere that money's got to come from. And that's part of our commitment, is that we will proceed. But there's clearly infrastructure requirements that we're going to need.
Thank you, Councillor Rittman. That's great points. Councillor Kungle.
Thank you, Mayor Nettle. In addition, the staff report content I thought was quite helpful related to some of the financial context, in particular, where as we're at the time of talking about our own budgets for this year and the capital plan, identifying that changes tied to an impact potentially on capital would really be part of the 2024 process. So I thought that was helpful for us to be able to focus on managing the impact and what we're pledging to. I wanted to check in through you, Mayor Nutt, unless you would like to defer to staff. As more information will be coming back a year from now that will have budgetary impacts, is there an opportunity to open back up that pledge? Or how committed are we to that once we're putting it in writing versus being able to amend that based on what we know a year from now?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Kungle. And CEO Proust, if you could augment what I'm about to say, while it's my signature, it's not necessarily my writing. Here's what I'd say. We don't really have a choice here. This isn't like, hey, City of Barrie, do you want to do this? These are your targets. You as a municipality are a child of the province. Commit to them. And so what staff have done is tried to create the verbiage that fits both our abilities as a municipality, as well as the province's request, and mesh them together. And I think they've done a good job at that. Us opening it a year from now and saying it's going to be 19,000 instead of 23,000 will be met with being disciplined by our parent, in my humble opinion. So I'll ask CAO Proust to maybe provide a little more clarity on the issue.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall, and through you to Councillor Kungle. I would certainly wholeheartedly agree with you, Mayor Nuttall. I certainly, if the landscape changes, it's going to likely change for all 450 municipalities in Ontario and perhaps all of Canada. And Ms. Banfield's team did some incredible work around this. One of the things that they have included in this that I think was not asked for by the province, but we have offered it, whether they asked for it or not, are the gaps as we understand them, which are things beyond the City of Barrie's control. We've attempted to articulate some of those. So as we go through this process, I think, we are simply saying to the province what we have said to council for a number of years now. We believe the goal is attainable. There certainly are challenges on the road, but we are certainly one of the municipalities that is incredibly well positioned to partner with the province in this goal. That may change, and if it changes, we will certainly report back to council with all of the changes in the economy and the environment that may impact this commitment. And council can feel free to send an updated letter to the province, potentially even rescinding this type of communication. But I think to Mayor Nuttall's commentary, the province has voluntold us to do this, and now council has it in front of them.
Thank you. No further questions other than one comment to say that, that context is great. And I think that's an important part of the communication was the stride staff took to identify the gaps in this, for at least giving us a position on record to say, when we're dealing in a year from now with more informed fact-based information, what is the due diligence about being able to open up the conversation rather than just being, identified as saying you accepted a pledge, you accepted a commitment in many unknowns, and balancing out any type of punitive repercussions. As you say, Mayor Nuttall, we permit, we don't approve or build. To the point to which we've controlled what we can control, showing that we've been effective in that space, I think is fair.
Thank you, Councillor Kungle. Councillor Morales.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. This is great, and I'll be voting in support. I think the real challenge I know we're going to rise up to is the follow-up to this. What do I mean by that? It was very interesting door knocking indoors in Ward 9 in the summer, because I actually had some residents that were a block or two away from the new townhouses that went up by the GO station. If any councillors have been in the South End, that just recently went up. And they actually said, I'm not a fan of those townhouses. And I figured it was a density thing. They actually said they should have put buildings there. They should have gone higher. What do I mean by that? I know that Dr. Mike Moffat and a couple of other people emphasize that we need more single attached homes. We need more housing of all types, but it's about getting the right type of housing and the right type of place. Why am I bringing this up now? To get to that 23,000, we're going to have tougher conversations with density projects along, especially in the south end, southeast end of Barrie, but even in the north end. And so the letter's great. It's the follow-up that's really going to back up the letter, how we're going to handle those conversations. So I'm optimistic. I think streamlining it is definitely the way to go. And I think also making infill missing middle projects. So this will affect the north end more than the south end and a bit of Allendale, is where you have barriers to entry that Right now, we're not getting those permits that make it to our desk, that make it to Committee of Adjustment, that make it to staff, because the current practices, and I've been told this by planners and developers in the industry, is they already know that if they go to, think of the person who's owned their house for 30, 40 years and they're not a sophisticated developer. They're just someone who has no mortgage and enough money that they can pay consultants. They already get told it's not worth going because amenity space area setbacks or parking requirements will kill your project, and they don't even bother. So there's lots of floating units out there that we can capture. And I think how we back this letter up is how, whether or not we're going to bring those on to the building phase. And the nice thing about those units is they're missing middle. So they're usually not too impactful to an existing community. So I'll be voting in support of this.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Morales. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none. We are meeting our commitments with relation to Bill 23 and Bill 109 at this point. Some of them are not easy and some of them are a work in progress. But we are, our staff, Michelle's team, for the most part, but staff across the corporation have been working very hard on that. Not only that, we have responded to requests for audits of reserve balances. CAO Prowse, I believe that we were about 24 hours turnaround on that, thanks to Rebecca's team, to say, audit us, come in, see what's good, what's bad, which I believe to be good. We are not in a position as a council at this point. We are in some sort of conflict with the provincial government. I hope that over time that reaps massive benefits in terms of specific projects for the city of Barrie. And I hope that our MPPs will be able to be on Team Barrie for those requests. But we are nearing the end of the pressure points that are being put on us as a political nature. We are in the phase of what staff have to work through. And we are starting the point of pressure in the coming weeks where it turns around and the pressure is put in the opposite direction. So I'll leave that there, but I think that as a council, we need to pay attention to that. And we need to be ready to be able to act on a dime with relation to projects coming forward to help facilitate this. All those in favor on my right, there's 4. All those in favor on my left, there's 5.
Separate report.
Separate report is being requested by Councilor Morales. We're going to leave the inquiries for this evening's council meeting. The same with announcements. The circulation list at this point. Are there any items from the circulation list dated February the 1st, 2023? Seeing none and having completed all of the business without a requirement to go into closed session, I will move to adjournment. So we are adjourned at 6:18 p.m. on February 1st, and we will reconvene at council at 7 p.m. Thank you.